All right, let's get right into it. We're always told that money is just simple math, right? Spend less than you make. Easy. But if it's really that simple, why does it feel so tangled, so wrapped up in stress and anxiety and all these other emotions? Well, today we're going to unpack why our relationship with money has way more to do with our brains and our bodies than it does with a spreadsheet.
So yeah, let's just put it out there. Is money really just math? I mean, think about it. If it was, we'd just hire a financial advisor, follow the plan, and be done with it. But we all know it's not that simple, not by a long shot. The truth is, financial stress is this incredibly powerful force, one that can cause genuine psychological strain and, believe it or not, even physical pain.
And you know what? This is such a real thing that there's a whole field dedicated to it. It's called financial therapy. And its entire purpose is to help bridge that massive gap between what we want to do with our money and all the emotional, psychological roadblocks that seem to pop up and get in our way. It's built on the idea that how we feel about money is just as critical as the numbers themselves. Okay, so let's really dig into the heart of the problem. What even is financial stress? And how does it manage to affect us on such a deep, fundamental level?
Well, to put it simply, financial stress is that real physical and mental pressure we feel when things are financially unstable. And this isn't just, a quick worry that goes away. It's more of a chronic strain that really digs in and impacts our minds and our bodies in some pretty profound ways.
So why? Why does money have this incredible power over our emotions? Well, the answer is kind of fascinating, and it's hidden deep inside the science of our brains, especially in what happens when we're about to make a financial decision.
You see, our brains are basically wired for one thing above all else: survival. And to do that, they have this powerful built-in reward system. It's fueled by a chemical you've probably heard of, dopamine. And dopamine's job is to give us this little hit of pleasure to make us want to repeat behaviors that keep us alive, like eating food or connecting with other people. Okay, but here's where modern life throws a wrench in the works. Our brains evolved to get a nice, steady, balanced dopamine hit from natural things, like enjoying a meal. But now, we've introduced all these artificial stimuli. Think about the instant buzz of online shopping, or swiping a credit card. These things can completely hijack that ancient reward system with these huge, unnatural floods of dopamine that our brains just weren't designed to handle.
And this is the consequence. That huge rush of dopamine can literally override the more rational, thoughtful parts of our brain. Our sensible, long-term financial plan, it just doesn't stand a chance against the brain's screaming demand for that immediate reward. It's a chemical reaction.
What this ends up creating is a feedback loop that, it looks a whole lot like addiction. First, you get the binge. That's the rush you feel when you buy something. Then comes the withdrawal. That's the crash, the buyer's remorse that hits later. And that leads to the preoccupation, the craving for that next dopamine hit, which just starts the whole cycle all over again. And listen, this isn't just something that happens to a few people. Not at all. Research shows that a mind-blowing 62% of purchases are made impulsively. 62%! That's our brain's ancient reward system at work, shaping our modern financial habits on a truly massive scale.
But all of this mental and emotional turmoil, it doesn't just stay in our heads. Oh no, it actually translates into very real, very serious physical problems. The body, as they say, ends up keeping the bill.
So, when financial stress becomes chronic, it's directly linked to a whole cascade of pretty severe health issues. We're talking about things like high blood pressure, a much higher risk of heart disease, a suppressed immune system that can't fight things off, metabolic disorders like diabetes, and just chronically bad sleep.
And the damage doesn't stop there. Psychologically, this kind of stress fuels anxiety and depression. It can be a gateway to substance abuse, it pushes us into social isolation, and it puts an incredible strain on our most important relationships. It can even mess with our ability to just think clearly and solve problems.
And this chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. The connection is direct. It's not some random coincidence. The data shows, without a doubt, that the higher your financial stress, the more negative health outcomes you're likely to face. It's a straight line, and it's a damaging one.
Okay, so we've seen the problem. From the chemicals in our brain all the way down to our physical health. It's a lot, and this is a big but, the story does not end there. Let's pivot now to a much more hopeful, and more importantly, an actionable solution, building something experts call financial resilience.
So, what is financial resilience? It's not just about getting by. It's about having the ability to see a financial shock coming, like losing a job or a sudden medical bill, to withstand it and then to recover from it all without completely derailing your life and well-being. It's about being proactive, not just reactive.
And this is so important to understand. Financial resilience is not just about having a pile of money. It's more like a sturdy structure that's held up by 4 distinct pillars. First, you need economic resources, like savings. Second, financial knowledge, knowing how to budget and manage debt. Third is social capital, which is really just your support network of friends, family, and community. And fourth, having access to services like banking and credit.
And the good news is, we can actively work to make these pillars stronger. We can do that with strategies like diversifying our income, so we're not just relying on one paycheck, or building up some liquid savings for those just-in-case moments, borrowing responsibly, leaning on our social networks when we need to, and of course, actually sitting down and doing some financial planning.
So what's the end game here? Why does all of this matter? Well, the whole point is to move from a state of being financially fragile to one of being financially stable. At the end of the day, it's about building a solid foundation for a life with less stress, more security, and just a greater sense of overall well-being and satisfaction. Which brings us to one last big idea to leave you with. A bit of a provocative question, really. If financial stress has such a direct, undeniable, and powerful impact on both our physical and our mental health, then shouldn't we start thinking about financial well-being as a crucial part of healthcare itself? It's definitely something to think about.